Hannah woke 3 days later. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Pain pulsed through her back and ribs with every breath. She tried to move and immediately regretted it. "Don't," a rough voice said. Commander Rax sat in a chair beside her bed. "You have 3 broken ribs, a fractured vertebra, and severe bruising. Moving is not advised." Hannah's voice came out as a croak. "Aaron?" "The hatchling is well, uninjured." Rax stood and pressed a button. "Pilot Ven has been caring for it. He will bring it here now." Minutes later, Ven entered carrying Aaron. The hatchling saw Hannah and made a sound that was half chirp, half cry. It struggled in Ven's arms, trying to reach her. "Careful," Ven said gently, setting Aaron on the edge of the bed. "Mama is hurt. You must be gentle." The hatchling moved slowly, carefully, until it could press against Hannah's side. Aaron's golden eyes were red and its small body trembled. "Mama hurt. Mama hurt bad." "I'm okay," Hannah whispered, lifting one hand to stroke Aaron's head. "I'm going to be fine." "You saved it," Ven said. His voice held something new. Something like awe. "You crawled through smoke and fire. You let a ceiling crush you. To save one small hatchling." "Of course I did," Hannah said. "That's what mothers do." Ven was quiet for a long moment. "That is not what Draxian mothers do. We do not risk ourselves for hatchlings. We create them and send them to be raised by others. We visit when duty allows. We do not." He struggled for words. "We do not do what you did." "Maybe you should," Hannah said softly. Over the next week, Hannah learned what had happened while she slept. The crew, faced with a traumatized hatchling that would not eat or sleep, had done something unprecedented. They had taken care of Aaron together. Pilot Ven had gone first, awkwardly trying to comfort the crying hatchling. He had walked the corridors with Aaron for hours, not knowing what else to do. When his shift ended, he had passed Aaron to another crew member, a young engineer named Dex. Dex had remembered something from his own childhood. A song his own parent had sung before such things were forbidden. He had hummed it quietly to Aaron, and the hatchling had stopped crying long enough to listen. Then came Tara, a weapons officer who had not seen her own offspring in 5 years. She had held Aaron carefully as if the small body might break. And when Aaron had finally fallen asleep in her arms, she had cried. Real tears, something she had not allowed herself in decades. One by one, the crew had taken turns, each finding small ways to comfort the frightened hatchling. Each remembering parts of themselves they had locked away. Lieutenant Kale had come last. He had stood in the corridor for an hour, watching others with the hatchling, before finally entering. His dislocated shoulder was now properly treated, though he still moved carefully. He had sat beside Aaron without speaking. The hatchling had looked at him with those golden eyes and chirped sadly. "Mama hurt." "Yes," Kale had said. "But she will heal. The human is stronger than she looks." "Mama brave," Aaron had said. "Mama saved Aaron." Kale had stared at the small creature for a long time. Then he had done something he had not done in 15 years. He had reached out and gently touched Aaron's head, the way he once touched his own offspring before it was taken to the state facility and later died there, alone and unmourned. "You are right," Kale had whispered. "Your mama is very brave." Now, as Hannah healed, the crew came to visit. They brought small gifts. Ven brought better blankets. Dex brought a properly sized datapad loaded with games for Aaron. Tara brought food she had specially prepared, nutrients balanced for both human and Draxian needs. Commander Rax visited every day. He would sit in the chair and give reports about the ship's repairs. But Hannah noticed he always asked about her pain levels. Always made sure she had everything she needed. And he always spent a few minutes watching Aaron play, his expression unreadable. One evening, when Aaron had fallen asleep curled against her side, Rax spoke quietly. "I had an offspring once," he said. "A long time ago. My mate died in battle when the hatchling was very young. I did as all Draxians do. Sent it to the state facility. Visited when I could." He paused. "Which was not often. I commanded a ship. Duty came first," Hannah waited, not speaking. My offspring died in that facility, Rax continued. Disease? The caretaker said it was weak, that it would not have survived anyway. His hands clenched. I accepted this. That is what we do. Accept that the weak die and the strong survive? I'm sorry, Hannah said softly. I see you with that hatchling, Rax said. I see how it thrives, how it grows stronger every day, how it looks at you with trust and ... joy. My offspring never looked at me that way. I thought it was because hatchlings cannot feel such things. But now I wonder if my offspring was simply never taught how. Tears slid down Hannah's face. It's not too late, Commander. It's never too late to change. Rax looked at her, and for the first time she saw pain in his eyes. Real, genuine pain. I want to believe that. Lieutenant Kale came later that night. Aaron was awake, playing with a simple puzzle Dex had made. Kale watched for a moment before speaking. I was wrong, he said abruptly. About hatchlings. About strength. About everything. Hannah shifted carefully to look at him. What changed your mind? I watched you nearly die for that hatchling. I watched the crew care for it, saw them remember how to be gentle, and I realized that we Draxians have been wrong for generations. His voice was rough. We thought we were strong because we felt nothing. But you humans are strong because you feel everything. You love so deeply you will die for it. And that... He paused. That is true strength. You all have that strength too, Hannah said. You just forgot how to use it. Teach us, Kale said suddenly. When you are healed, teach us how to be like you, how to care without fear, how to love without shame. Hannah looked around the medical bay, at Kale with his honest request, at Commander Rax still sitting quietly in his chair, at Aaron playing peacefully, safe and happy, at the other crew members who had started gathering near the door, listening. I will, she said. I promise. That night something changed on the warship. In the mess hall, crew members sat closer together. They talked more freely. Tara told a story about her offspring, and others listened without judgment. Dex admitted he missed his family, and Ven confessed he had always wanted to raise a hatchling properly. Commander Rax sent a message to Draxian Command. He requested Aaron be allowed to stay aboard the ship. He requested Hannah remain as permanent crew. He used words like unit cohesion and improved morale, but he meant something else. Entirely. He meant family. And in the medical bay, Hannah slept with Aaron curled safely beside her. The small hatchling's breathing was deep and peaceful. Its golden eyes were closed. And on its face was something that looked very much like a smile. Around the ship, for the first time in generations, Draxian warriors began to remember what it felt like to have something worth protecting beyond duty and honor. They remembered love. The attack came without warning. Hannah was teaching Aaron to identify different medical tools when the alarm shrieked through the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. The floor vibrated with the deep rumble of the ship's weapons charging. All crew to battle stations, Commander Rax's voice boomed through the speakers. We are under attack. Multiple hostile vessels approaching. This is not a drill. Hannah's training kicked in immediately. She scooped up Aaron and ran to her quarters, placing the hatchling in the safest corner. Stay here, she said firmly. No matter what happens, you stay in this corner. Understand? Aaron's golden eyes were wide with fear. Mama? I have to help the wounded. I'll come back as soon as I can. Stay here and stay quiet. Hannah kissed the top of Aaron's scaled head and ran for the medical bay. The ship shuddered as the first impact hit. Hannah grabbed the wall to keep from falling. She reached the medical bay and began preparing for casualties. Extra supplies laid out. Trauma beds ready. Emergency equipment checked and rechecked. The second impact was worse. The lights flickered. Something exploded somewhere deep in the ship, and the smell of smoke began to drift through the ventilation. The first wounded arrived minutes later. A young crew member with burns across his side, then another with a broken arm, then 3 more, and then Hannah stopped counting. She worked in a blur of movement, treating injuries, stabilizing patients, moving to the next case. The ship rocked again, harder this time. The medical bay's lights went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in dim red. "Hull breach on deck 7, someone shouted over the comm. Sealing emergency doors. Hannah's hands never stopped moving. Sutures here. Burn treatment there. Keep them alive. Keep them stable. That was all that mattered. An hour passed. Maybe 2. The wounded kept coming. Lieutenant Kale appeared in the doorway, his arm hanging at an odd angle. "Dislocated shoulder," Hannah said, glancing at it. "Sit, I'll get to you." "Others first," Kale said through gritted teeth. "I can wait." Another explosion rocked the ship. This one felt closer. The floor tilted slightly and stayed that way. Deck 5 damaged, the comm crackled. Fire in Section 12. Evacuation in progress. Hannah froze. Deck 5, Section 12. That was near her quarters. That was where she had left Aaron. "No," she whispered. Then louder, "No." She ran. Someone called after her, but she did not stop. The corridors were filled with smoke. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. She ran faster. The door to her quarters was jammed. Hannah slammed her shoulder against it. Once, twice, it did not move. She could hear a faint sound from inside. A small, terrified chirping. "Aaron!" Hannah screamed. "Aaron, I'm here." The chirping got louder, more desperate. Hannah looked around wildly. There had to be another way. The ventilation shaft. It was small, but she might fit. She grabbed a tool from the emergency kit on the wall and pried. Opened the vent cover. The shaft was barely wide enough for her body. Hannah crawled forward on her elbows, ignoring the sharp edges that scraped her arms. Smoke stung her eyes. The metal was hot under her hands. "Aaron!" she called. "Keep making noise." "I'm coming." The chirping continued, guiding her through the dark maze of shafts. "Turn left, straight ahead." Down through a vertical drop that made her stomach lurch. She could see light ahead. The vent opening to her quarters. She crawled faster. Her breathing harsh in the confined space. Hannah kicked the vent cover loose and dropped into her quarters. The room was full of smoke. Part of the ceiling had collapsed. And there, huddled in the corner, exactly where she had left it, was Aaron. The hatchling saw her and cried out. Hannah ran across the room and snatched Aaron up, pressing the small body against her chest. "I've got you. I've got you." That was when she heard the groan of metal. The ceiling was collapsing. Hannah dove toward the door just as a massive support beam crashed down. She felt the impact against her back, felt something tear. Pain exploded through her body. But she kept her arms locked around Aaron, kept the hatchling protected beneath her. The beam pinned her to the floor. She could not move, could not breathe properly. But Aaron was safe underneath her, crying but uninjured. "It's okay," Hannah gasped. Every word hurt. "You're okay." Footsteps pounded in the corridor. Someone was shouting. Strong hands grabbed the beam and lifted it. The weight came off Hannah's back and she rolled to the side, still clutching Aaron. Commander Rax knelt beside her. Behind him, Lieutenant Kale and Pilot Ven were pushing debris aside, creating a path. "Foolish human," Rax said, but his voice was not angry. "You could have died." "Aaron," Hannah managed. "Is Aaron okay?" Ven carefully took the hatchling from her arms. He checked Aaron over with surprisingly gentle hands. Unharmed. Not even a scratch. "Good," Hannah whispered. The pain was getting worse. Something was definitely broken. Probably several somethings. "That's good." Kale looked at Commander Rax. "We need to get her to medical." "I can walk," Hannah tried to say, but the world was starting to blur at the edges. "No," Rax said firmly. He lifted her as easily as if she weighed nothing. "You cannot." As Rax carried her through the damaged corridors, Hannah could hear Aaron crying. The hatchling's small voice calling, "Mama, Mama," over and over. "I'm okay," Hannah called back weakly. "Don't cry, baby." "I'm okay." But she was not okay. She knew that. She could feel blood on her back, could feel the sharp edges of broken ribs, could feel the darkness creeping in at the corners of her vision. The last thing she saw before she passed out was Aaron's golden eyes, wide and frightened, watching her from Ven's arms. And behind them the entire bridge crew had stopped their work. They were all staring at her, at Aaron, at what she had done, a human who had crawled through fire and smoke, who had taken a ceiling beam to her back, who had risked everything to save a small creature that was not even her own species. Lieutenant Kale stood with his injured arm still hanging wrong, watching them carry Hana away. His face showed an expression no one had seen before, something that might have been wonder, or shame, or recognition of something he had lost long ago. Pilot Ven held Aaron close, making awkward but sincere shushing sounds as the hatchling cried, and Commander Rax carried the broken human to medical, his movements careful and precise as if he was carrying something infinitely precious. The battle ended an hour later. The enemy ships retreated. The warship survived, damaged but intact. In the medical bay, Hana lay unconscious on a bed, machines monitoring her vital signs, and in a chair beside her, curled into a tight ball, Aaron waited. The small hatchling refused to leave, refused to eat. Just watched the human who had given everything to keep it safe. The crew walked by throughout the night. One by one, they came to the medical bay window. They looked at the injured human and the loyal hatchling, and something in the cold spaces of their hearts began to crack. The hatchling survived. Against all expectations, against all Draxian logic, the small creature lived. By the end of the second week, it was eating solid food. By the third week, it was trying to walk on unsteady legs. Hannah named it Aaron. The word meant enlightened in an old Earth language. When she said the name, the hatchling's golden eyes would fix on her face and its tail would twitch. Hannah chose to believe this meant the name was accepted. Aaron followed Hannah everywhere. When she worked in the medical bay, the small hatchling would curl up on a soft pad in the corner, watching her with curious eyes. When she ate her meals, Aaron sat beside her, making small chirping sounds until Hannah shared something from her plate. When she slept, Aaron nestled against her side, seeking warmth and comfort. This behavior puzzled the Draxian crew. Draxian hatchlings were raised in group facilities, cared for by designated workers who provided food and basic training. Parents visited weekly at most. Physical affection was discouraged. Independence was taught from the moment a hatchling could walk, but Hannah was human. She did things differently. She held Aaron when the hatchling seemed scared. She made soothing sounds when Aaron had bad dreams. She played simple games, hiding objects and letting Aaron find them. She talked to the small creature constantly, explaining everything she did, teaching words in both human and Draxian languages. "This is a medical scanner," Hannah would say, holding up the device. "Scanner. Can you say that? It helps me see if someone is hurt inside their body." Aaron would tilt its head, golden eyes focused on the tool, and make a sound that was almost but not quite the right word. Hannah would smile and try again. The crew noticed. How could they not? They would pass by the medical bay and see the human sitting on the floor, playing with the hatchling like it was something precious rather than a burden. They would hear Hannah's soft laughter when Aaron did something clumsy and amusing. They would watch the hatchling's obvious joy when Hannah entered a room. Pilot Ven was the first to comment. He found Hannah in the medical bay one evening, teaching Aaron how to stack supply containers. "You treat it like your own offspring," Ven said from the doorway. Hannah looked up. Aaron had managed to stack 3 containers before they toppled over. The hatchling chirped in frustration. "It's okay," Hannah said to Aaron. "Try again." "You almost had it." She turned to Ven. "I suppose I do. Is that wrong?" "It is not how Draxians raise hatchlings." Ven entered the room slowly, watching Aaron with an expression Hannah was learning to read. Curiosity mixed with something else. "We teach strength, independence. Your way will make it weak. Or it will make Aaron strong in different ways," Hannah said. She helped Aaron stack the containers again. This time they held. The hatchling made an excited chirping sound and looked at Hannah for approval. Good job, Aaron, Hannah said warmly. You did it. Aaron bounced on its small legs, tail swishing with happiness. Ven stared. It responds to praise. I have never seen that before. All children respond to praise, Hannah said. Draxian or human. They want to know when they do something good. They want to feel valued. Draxian hatchlings are not praised. They are corrected when wrong and ignored when adequate. Hannah felt a pang in her chest. That sounds lonely. Ven said nothing for a long moment. Then he knelt down to Aaron's level. The hatchling watched him with cautious golden eyes. Stack them again, Ven said, his voice less harsh than usual. Show me you can do it. Aaron looked at Hannah, who nodded encouragingly. The hatchling turned back to the containers and carefully stacked them, one by one. When the last container settled into place, Aaron looked at Ven expectantly. Ven's scaled face was hard to read, but his voice was softer when he spoke. Adequate work. It was not much, but Aaron seemed pleased. The hatchling chirped and bounced again. After that day, Ven started visiting the medical bay more often. He would bring small things, parts he said were extras from the ship's inventory. A soft blanket. A simple toy. Once, he brought a datapad loaded with Draxian teaching programs for young hatchlings. So, it learns properly, Ven said, but his eyes were gentle when they looked at Aaron. Lieutenant Kale was different. He watched from a distance, his expression always disapproving. One day he cornered Hannah in the corridor. You are making a mistake, he said. That hatchling will suffer when you leave. You are teaching it to need affection, to need comfort. These are weaknesses. These are connections, Hannah replied. Bonds that make life worth living. Draxians do not need such bonds. We are sufficient unto ourselves. Hannah looked at the tall warrior. Are you? Because from what I've seen, you're all alone. Every single one of you. No one touches. No one comforts. No one shares feelings. You call it strength, but it looks like isolation to me. Kale's scales seem to darken. You know nothing of our ways. Maybe not, but I know what I see when Aaron looks at me. Trust, affection, joy. Those aren't weaknesses, Lieutenant. Those are reasons to be strong. Something worth protecting. Kale turned and walked away without another word. But Hannah noticed he started to take different routes through the ship. Routes that happened to pass by the medical bay window when she was playing with Aaron. One night, Hannah woke to find Aaron shaking beside her. The hatchling was making small distress sounds, eyes squeezed shut. Aaron, Hannah said softly, sitting up. Hey, it's okay. You're safe. The hatchling's eyes opened, wild and frightened. Aaron saw Hannah and immediately pressed against her, trembling. Bad dream? Hannah asked gently. She wrapped her arms around the small body and rocked slowly. It's okay. I'm here. Nothing can hurt you. She hummed a song her own mother used to sing, an old lullaby about stars and sleep and safety. Aaron's trembling slowly eased. The hatchling's breathing became deeper, more regular. Ma, Aaron whispered in broken Draxian. The word was slurred and uncertain, but unmistakable. Hannah's breath caught. What did you say? Mama, Aaron repeated, clearer this time. The golden eyes looked up at her with complete trust. Mama safe. Tears pricked at Hannah's eyes. She hugged Aaron closer. Yes, baby. Mama's here. You're safe. What Hannah did not see was Lieutenant Kale standing in the corridor outside her quarters. The door had been left slightly open because of the heat. He had come to deliver a report and had stopped when he heard the sounds. He stood there for a long minute, listening to the human's soft voice singing words he did not understand, listening to the hatchling's content chirps, watching through the gap as the human held the small creature. Like it was the most important thing in the universe, Kale's hand moved unconsciously to his chest, pressing against the place where, long ago, he had felt something similar. Before duty taught him to lock such feelings away. Before loss taught him that caring only brought pain, he turned and walked away quietly. But the image stayed with him, the human and the hatchling wrapped together in the dim light. Two beings from different species, creating something that should not exist according to Draxian belief, creating family, and deep in the locked places of his mind, something old and forgotten began to stir. 3 weeks had passed since Hannah came aboard the warship. She had settled into a routine that felt almost normal. Wake at 0530, report to medical bay at 0600, treat minor injuries, study Draxian physiology, avoid getting in anyone's way. The crew still watched her with suspicion, but at least they no longer stopped talking when she entered a room. The ship was on patrol near the border territories, a region where pirates and raiders often attacked trade vessels. Today they had received a distress call from a small trading outpost. By the time the warship arrived, the raiders were gone. They had left behind damaged buildings and scattered cargo. Commander Rax ordered a team to survey the damage and collect any salvageable supplies. Hannah went with them, carrying her medical kit in case they found survivors. But the outpost was empty. Whatever people had been there were either taken or had fled. The team split up to search different sections. Hannah found herself in a cargo bay that smelled like burned metal and something else. Something organic and rotten. She covered her nose and moved carefully between the scattered crates and containers. That was when she heard it. A small sound. Barely more than a whisper. A tiny whimper that made her freeze in place. "Hello?" Hannah called out. "Is someone there?" The sound came again, weaker this time. It came from behind a fallen storage container. Hannah rushed over and tried to push the heavy box aside. It would not budge. She found a gap underneath and peered into the darkness. Two small eyes stared back at her. Golden eyes that reflected her flashlight like tiny mirrors. "Oh no," Hannah whispered. She worked faster, using a piece of metal pipe as a lever to lift the container. The gap widened just enough for her to reach inside. Her hands found something small and warm and covered in scales. She pulled gently. A Draxian hatchling emerged into the light. It was tiny, no bigger than a human toddler. Its scales were pale, almost white, and its golden eyes were half closed. The little creature was barely breathing. Hannah's training took over. She scanned the hatchling quickly. Severe dehydration, malnutrition, possible internal injuries. It was dying. "Stay with me, little one," Hannah said softly. She wrapped the hatchling in her jacket and pressed her communicator. "This is Kim. I found a survivor. It's a hatchling. I need immediate transport back to the ship." Lieutenant Kale's voice came through, sharp with surprise. "A hatchling? How did it survive?" "Barely," Hannah said. "I need to get it to medical now." The transport back to the ship felt like it took forever. Hannah kept the hatchling pressed against her chest, trying to share her body warmth. The little thing made small sounds, like a kitten mewling. Its breathing was shallow and rapid. When they reached the medical bay, Hannah worked without stopping. She sat up in 4-line, carefully finding the small vein in the hatchling's thin arm. She administered fluids and nutrients. She treated the cuts and bruises covering its small body. She worked until her hands shook from exhaustion. Commander Rax appeared in the doorway of the medical bay. His heavy footsteps made Hannah look up. "Report," he said. "Draxian hatchling, approximately 4 months old," Hannah said, not stopping her work. "Severe dehydration and malnutrition. Multiple contusions. It was trapped in that cargo bay for at least 3 days, maybe longer." Rax moved closer to look at the small creature on the medical table. His expression did not change. "It will not survive." "It will if I have anything to say about it," Hannah said firmly. "Hatchlings are weak. This one is damaged. The proper course is to send it to a care facility." Rax's voice was flat, like he was discussing equipment, not a living child. Hannah looked up at him. "The nearest facility is 3 weeks away. This hatchling won't survive 3 days without intensive care. That is not our concern. We are a warship, not a nursery. Commander, please." Hannah kept her voice respectful but firm. "Let me keep the hatchling here. Let me try to save it. If it survives, then we can discuss what happens next." Rax stared at the small creature for a long moment. The hatchling's chest rose and fell in rapid, shallow movements. Its golden eyes were closed. "You will care for it yourself," Rax finally said. "It will not interfere with ship operations. You will not expect any crew assistance. When we reach the next station, it goes to a proper facility. These are my terms." "Agreed," Hannah said immediately. "Thank you, Commander." Rax turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Do not become attached, human. Hatchlings die. That is the way of things." After he left, Hannah looked down at the small creature connected to tubes and monitors. Its breathing had stabilized slightly. The fluids were helping. "Not this one," she whispered. "You're going to make it." Lieutenant Kale appeared later that evening. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching Hannah work. She had moved the hatchling to a smaller recovery room off the main medical bay. She had turned up the heat and added soft padding to the bed. "You are wasting resources," Kale said. "That hatchling is too damaged. It would be mercy to let it pass." Hannah kept her eyes on her patient. "That's not how humans see things." "I know. Your species clings to life irrationally. You call it hope. We call it foolishness." "Maybe," Hannah said. "But this foolishness has kept humanity alive through some pretty terrible times." Kale made a dismissive sound. "You will learn. When the hatchling dies despite your efforts, you will understand why we Draxians do not waste energy on hopeless causes." But the hatchling did not die that night. Or the next night. Or the night after that. Slowly, impossibly, the small creature grew stronger. Its breathing steadied. Its eyes opened more often. After 5 days, it drank water on its own. Hannah barely left the medical bay. She slept on a cot next to the recovery room. She monitored every vital sign, adjusted every treatment. Other crew members passed by sometimes, looking through the window at the small hatchling. They never came inside. They never offered help. On the 7th day, the hatchling made a new sound. Not a whimper or a cry. Something different. Something almost like a chirp. Hannah looked up from her medical notes. The hatchling was watching her with those golden eyes. They were clearer now, more focused. The little creature's mouth opened and it made that sound again. A small chirp, like it was trying to communicate. "Hello there," Hannah said softly. She moved closer to the bed. "Are you feeling better?" The hatchling's eyes followed her movement. It chirped again, louder this time. Hannah smiled and reached out slowly. The hatchling did not pull away when her fingers gently touched its head. The scales felt smooth and warm under her hand. "You're going to be okay," Hannah said. "I promise." Outside the medical bay, she did not see Pilot Ven standing in the corridor, watching through the window. She did not see the expression on his face. Somewhere between confusion and something that might have been wonder, the hatchling chirped again and pressed its small head against Hannah's palm. And for the first time since arriving on this cold ship, Hannah felt something warm in her chest. Something that felt like purpose. The transport shuttle felt cold against Hannah. Kim's back as she watched the massive warship grow larger through the viewing window. The Draxian vessel looked nothing like human ships. Where human designs curved and flowed, this ship was all sharp angles and dark metal plates. It looked like something built for one purpose only. War. Hannah pressed her hand against the cool glass. Her reflection stared back at her, dark eyes showing more worry than she wanted to admit. At 28 years old, she had trained for this moment for 3 years. She was a xenobiologist and a combat medic, one of the best in the human fleet. But knowing that did not stop the nervous flutter in her stomach. "Docking in 5 minutes," the pilot announced through the speaker. Hannah checked her bags one more time. Medical supplies, research equipment, personal belongings. Everything she would need for the next 6 months aboard an alien warship. She would be the only human on a ship of 300 Draxian warriors. The thought made her mouth go dry. The shuttle bumped gently as it connected to the warship's docking port. Metal scraped against metal, then locked into place with a heavy thud. The pilot looked back at her through the cockpit door. "Good luck out there, Doc," he said. "You're braver than me." Hannah forced a smile. "Just doing my job." The airlock door hissed open. Cold air rushed in, carrying a strange scent, like heated stone and something sharp she could not name. Hannah picked up her bags and stepped through. The docking bay was massive, and empty except for 3 figures waiting for her. They stood perfectly still, watching her approach. Draxians were tall, much taller than humans. Their bodies were covered in scales that caught the harsh overhead lights. These 3 wore dark uniforms with military symbols she had studied, but still found hard to read. The one in the center stepped forward. His scales were a deep green, almost black, and old scars crossed his face like pale rivers. When he spoke, his voice was rough and deep. "I am Commander Rax. This is my ship." He did not offer his hand or any greeting gesture. "You are the human." Hannah Kim. It was not a question. Hannah nodded anyway. "Yes, Commander. Thank you for accepting me aboard." Rax's eyes were yellow with thin black slits for pupils. They looked at her without any warmth. "We did not accept you. The Galactic Coalition ordered this exchange. We follow orders." The Draxian to his left, slightly younger with bronze-colored scales, made a sound that might have been a snort. "A human on a warship. The other clans will mock us for this." "Enough, Kale," Rax said without looking at him. He turned back to Hannah. "You are here to study our medical practices and to serve as backup medical personnel. You will not interfere with ship operations. You will not enter restricted areas. You will keep to your assigned duties. Is this clear?" "Yes, Commander. Lieutenant Kale will show you to your quarters. The medical bay is on deck 4. You will report there at 0600 hours tomorrow." Rax turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing? Draxians do not show weakness. We do not cry. We do not complain. If you cannot follow our ways, you will be sent back to your people." Hannah kept her voice steady. "I understand." Rax walked away without another word. The third Draxian, younger than the others with lighter gray scales, stepped forward. He seemed less hostile, though his face was hard to read. "I am Pilot Ven," he said. His voice was less rough than the commander's. "Follow me." Hannah walked beside him through the ship's corridors. Everything was metal and sharp corners. The lighting was dim by human standards, and the temperature was cold enough that she could see her breath. Other Draxians passed them in the hallways. Each one stopped to stare at her. Some showed no expression. Others looked at her like she was something strange and possibly dangerous. "They have never seen a human before," Ven said, noticing her discomfort. "Most Draxians have not. Your kind are rare in this sector." "I know," Hannah said. "That's why I'm here. To help our species understand each other better." Ven made a sound that might have been agreement or doubt. She could not tell. Her quarters were small. A single room with a narrow bed, a desk, and a storage unit. One small window showed the stars outside. It was nothing like her comfortable apartment back on Earth, but it was clean and functional. "Meals are served in the common area on Deck 3, Ven said from the doorway. "But I should warn you. Our food may not agree with human digestion. You should probably eat from your own supplies." "I brought supplements," Hannah said. "But I'd like to try your food too. Part of understanding each other is sharing meals." Ven's head tilted slightly like a bird studying something curious. "You are strange for a human. The report said your kind are soft, emotional, weak." Hannah set down her bags and turned to face him. "Humans feel emotions, yes. We cry and laugh and get angry. But that doesn't make us weak. Emotions are just another tool for survival. They help us bond, help us work together." "Draxians need no such tools," Ven said. But he did not sound entirely certain. "We are strong because we are disciplined, because we do not let feelings cloud our judgment." "Maybe," Hannah said. "Or maybe you're strong despite that, not because of it." Ven stared at her for a long moment. Then he stepped back into the corridor. 0600 hours. Do not be late. The commander does not tolerate lateness." The door slid shut with a soft hiss, leaving Hannah alone in her new quarters. She sat on the edge of the bed and let out a long breath. The metal frame was hard and cold beneath her. The room smelled like recycled air and something metallic. For the first time since leaving Earth, Hannah let herself feel the full weight of her isolation. She was alone on a ship full of warriors who thought emotions were weakness, who had been ordered to accept her presence, but clearly did not want her here. She looked at the picture she had brought from home, her parents smiling on their porch, her younger brother making a silly face. Earth seemed very far away now. Hannah put the picture on her desk where she could see it. Then she began unpacking her medical supplies, organizing them the way she liked. Work helped. Work always helped. Tomorrow she would report to the medical bay. Tomorrow she would start proving that humans belonged here too. That strength came in many forms. Tonight she was tired and alone in the cold dark of space. But she had chosen this path. And Hannah Kim did not give up easily. Outside her window, the stars shone like ice chips against the black. The warship turned slowly, heading deeper into unknown territory. And somewhere in the distance, something waited that would change everything.